Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Tonight, I just wanted to go through a series of questions presented by geekychristian.com, posted on May 30th, 2013. So it's about 5 years old, but these questions are probably not too obsolete. So tonight I just wanted to go through some questions with atheists with you all, seeing as though I am one, and yeah, let's just get started. Question number 1. Are you absolutely sure there is no God? If not, then is it possible that there is a God? And if it is possible that God exists, then can you think of any reason that would keep you from wanting to look at the evidence? Alright, so this is a pretty loaded question. Supposed to get you triggered a little bit. You can kind of tell, mainly from the verbing of that last little phrase there after the comma. But first question, are you absolutely sure that there is no God? Of course I'm not absolutely sure that there is no God. It is an unfalsifiable hypothesis, just as an invisible T-Rex living in my backyard might be. I can say it, and no one can really disprove the fact that there is a invisible T-Rex living in my backyard. So this is kind of this is getting at the Gnostic and agnostic portion of anyone's belief system in regards to a deity, and I am an agnostic atheist. So and if not, is it possible that there is a God? Of course it's possible that there is a God. Is it the Judeo-Christian God? No. Just based off of the inconsistencies presented in the Bible, and the properties described of God in the Bible, the Judeo-Christian God does not exist. As far as a deistic God, maybe. Who knows? And if it is possible that God exists, then can you think of any reason that would keep you from wanting to look at the evidence? Nope. Nope. I'm always willing to look at the evidence. That's what shapes our reality. So, question number 2. Would you agree that intelligently designed things call for an intelligent designer of them? If so, then would you agree that evidence for intelligent design in the universe would be evidence for a designer of the universe? So for anyone answering this question, you have to first recognize that they have automatically said something about the argument or an assumption of intelligent design, which is implicit of an entity creating the product. So in the case of this question, then would you agree that evidence for intelligent design in the universe would be evidence for the designer of the universe? It's redundant. So basically, no, I don't agree that intelligent life is the result of a creator, seeing as though it's so hard to find in the universe at this point. That would imply to me that this is a very rare process that has only occurred here, and we are just very lucky. Question number 3. Would you agree that nothing cannot produce something? If so, then if the universe did not exist, but then came to exist, wouldn't this be evidence to have a cause beyond the universe? No, I would not agree that nothing cannot produce something, as that is currently a debate raging around the this little concept you might have heard of called the Big Bang Theory. Can't really say yet, so I wouldn't assume anything about this question. It's a very large question. It takes a lot of research, and quite frankly, I wouldn't just say, God did it, but that's just me. Anyway, if so, which I didn't say yes, so moving on to the next question. Question number 4. Would you agree with me that just because we cannot see something with our eyes, such as our mind, gravity, magnetism, the wind, that it does not mean it doesn't exist? Well, first of all, the mind is a part of the brain, specifically the frontal cortex, so we definitely can see it. We study it. Gravity can be observed by dropping something. Honestly, this reminds me of the Insane Clown Posse. Fucking magnets, how do they work? You know, we can actually study the results of gravity. We can study the results of magnetism. With God, all you have to look at is these scriptures and texts that they come from, which is in reality just a part of human literature over time. So anyway, so from my perspective, I would say that these scriptures detailing God are evidence of man's ability to create such beings, as well as the stories that go along with said beings. Moving right along. Question 5. Would you also agree that just because we cannot see God with our eyes does not necessarily mean he does not exist? Yes, but that's not saying very much at all. You could say the same thing about my invisible dinosaur we mentioned earlier. So we're already kind of treading water. In light of the Big Bang evidence for the origin of the universe, is it more reasonable to believe that no one created something out of nothing, or someone created something out of nothing? Once again with this question, they are making an assumption with how they word it. Notice what they say. They say, is it more reasonable to believe that no one, so there's a one here, and no matter how you answer this, you've accepted that premise, that no one created something out of nothing, or someone created something out of nothing. And I don't really know what they're talking about here with in the light of the Big Bang evidence for the origin of the universe. They're implying something that the reader has no idea what they're talking about. And I'm pretty sure that nowhere in the theory of the Big Bang, nowhere is anyone saying that a deity was behind the creation of the universe. In fact, the science gets kind of weird when you get up to the point where the universe was, the universe began. So, once again, this is a question designed to ensnare you in a trap. I guess we're on 7. Would you agree that something presently exists? If something presently exists, and something cannot come from nothing, just of course building on the fallacious previous questions, then would you all agree that something must have always existed? And see, this isn't a standalone question. This is based off of you accepting the logic of the previous question, which is pretty common in arguments with religious folk, is they will try very hard to get you to accept one premise just so they can help make you fall into a trap where you can't, you're basically playing their game. And it has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with arguing ability. And that's what's so deceptive about this tactic, is that the truth doesn't matter, per se. They're not asking these questions because it's philosophically interesting. They're asking these questions to trap you and make you feel a certain way so that you come over to their side. Of course. Basically, it's not for your own benefit, it's for their benefit. And again, I don't really know why we are obsessed with placing an entity as the responsible force for creating the universe, or at least beginning this universe. It's a little bit presumptuous of us to assume that it is something like us. So, anyway. Question 8. If it takes an intelligent being to produce an encyclopedia, then would it not also take an intelligent being to produce the equivalent of 1,000 sets of an encyclopedia full of information in the first one-celled animal? And of course, they have a comment about how Richard Dawkins said something about this once, so therefore that makes their argument more potent. So, I don't know why they're making the comparison between an encyclopedia and the information, quote-unquote, within a single-celled organism. And once again, there are phenomena in the universe that do not involve single-celled organisms that are arguably just as complex, that have been happening for billions of years without the help of an intelligent designer. Not only that, but this is a God of the Gaps argument, in which they say, oh, well, science doesn't fully understand abiogenesis yet, therefore God. It's not a sound argument. That is chiming in and inserting yourself into the ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. So, not a very compelling question. And also kind of similar to the watchmaker argument, wherein which they state, oh, this is complex, therefore a creator, which is illogical and nonsensical. Moving right along. Question number 9. If an effect cannot be greater than its cause, since you can't give what you do not have to give, then does it not make more sense that mind produced matter than that matter produced mind, as atheists say? So not only is this a straw man, wherein which they create an argument for atheists and stuff it in their mouths collectively, but also I disagree with the premise of this, that the effect cannot be greater than its cause. That is not true, especially socially, especially physically. So the butterfly effect is a great example of this. A butterfly, theoretically, flaps its wings in Australia, and that small gust causes a chain reaction, which is the effect of the cause, which eventually leads to a typhoon forming and hitting Sri Lanka and India. And if you look at it socially, let's say someone decides to spread fake news or a rumor, thereby disrupting the election process of the United States. One little click of a button and some programming upset the emotions and stability of an entire peoples. So I disagree with this question from the start. Not only that, but I don't even know what they mean by mind produced matter rather than matter produced mind. I don't get what they're trying to say there. Once again, very vague question that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Question number 10. Is there anything wrong anywhere? If so, how can we know unless there is a moral law? So how do we know if things are wrong? It's basically the simplified version of that. There's this thing called morality, as you pointed out, and moral law is subjective, as witnessed to throughout history, where different societies have held different things in moral contempt and moral regard. There's been a few constants, such as murder and theft and things of that nature, but those are based off of these universal human emotional traits known as empathy and self-interest. See, humans are self-interested, which means that they want to ensure their own interests, which typically include survival. And there's also this little thing called empathy, which is a neat little emotional development, where in which we can place ourselves in someone else's shoes. So moral laws are more or less based off of these two factors, and most of the time are pretty subjective. So to imply that a deity created an objective moral code is highly questionable and just flat out wrong. Question number 11. If every law needs a lawgiver, does it not make sense to say a moral law needs a moral lawgiver? Meaningless distinction. Of course, there are countries where the laws are different than the moral laws, and those moral laws are usually based off of, once again, a little thing called empathy. And once again, you don't need a moral lawgiver for that. Would you agree that if it took intelligence to make a model universe in a science lab, then it took superintelligence to make the real universe? No, I do not. And the main reason for this is that there have been plenty of natural phenomena in the world which has not been required by someone setting off a chain set of reactions. It is more often than not in the universe, quite literally, everything has been caused by other non-conscious objects, such as gravity, energy, inertia, wind in the case of storms. There was no God required to set off the chain reactions of a tornado. That simply happened because of the conditions in the atmosphere. Would you agree that it takes a cause to make a small glass ball found in the woods? And would you agree that making the ball larger does not eliminate the need for a cause? If so, then doesn't the biggest ball of all, the whole universe, need a cause? Alright, so glass ball equals universe. The woods equals... I have no idea what the woods equals, because if the glass ball is the universe, then that's everything. And if the woods exist outside of everything, then the woods don't technically exist. This question is confusing. I don't know what they're referring to. I don't know what they're trying to say. You think of an old YouTube video, and I'll link it in the description, where an atheist mathematician makes a joke about how the universe in this circle represents all that exists, and God is outside of the universe, and you're asked to describe the set, and if what exists is in the universe, then God is outside of the universe. Therefore, put 2 and 2 together, God doesn't freaking exist. That's kind of what this question reminds me of, but I don't know what they're trying to ask. So, question number 14. If there is a cause beyond the whole finite (parentheses limited) universe, would this cause have to be beyond the finite, namely infinite? Okay, so this question is making the assumption that the universe had a definite beginning and has a definite end. Possibly true. But that beginning and end does not imply that the universe is finite. As far as if the universe is infinite or finite, that is a question we cannot answer, and therefore this is another unfalsifiable hypothesis, wherein which we can't say for certain whether one thing is true or the other. So this question is not relevant. Not relevant at all. And even if let's run with the assumption that they presume here that the universe is limited. Alright, there is a cause beyond the limited universe. Something. Would not this cause have to be beyond the finite, namely the non-finite or the infinite? Well, there could have been a finite cause beyond the finite cause. And who can really say if there are an infinite number of finite causes beyond that finite cause, or if there are a finite number of causes beyond that finite cause? That question is not really answerable, and it does not necessarily pertain to a deistic being. Question number 15. In the light of the anthropic... I don't know why they say in the light. I'll just say in light of the anthropic principle, that the universe was fine-tuned for the emergence of life from its very inception, would it make sense to say that there was an intelligent being who pre-planned human life? Again, that's assuming that the anthropic principle is correct, which I would say it's not, because the universe was not fine-tuned, quote-unquote, for the emergence of life from its very inception. Mainly because we haven't discovered a whole lot of life. We found some simple life, or some remnants of simple life on other planets, and as far as we know, we're the only intelligent life that exists in the universe. And that's not accounting for what might have existed in the billions of years before us, or what will exist in the billions of years after us. But regardless, it doesn't seem to be abundant. And if the universe was fine-tuned for life, then you would think that life would be everywhere. But it's not. So, alright, those were the 15 questions from geekychristian.com. A lot of them were too vague to really even get a grasp of. A lot of them relied on you accepting a part of their question and playing into a logical trap. And some of them just didn't hold up, like that last one. So this list was not very impressive. I'm probably going to make a few more videos like this where I go through some questions for atheists. Hopefully I run into something more challenging. But until then, I will see you all later. Ciao.